Hey ladies, welcome back to season 5, episode number 3. You are right here in the middle of our series as we kick off season 5 of what does it mean to be a homemaker. If you did not listen to the last 2 episodes, I highly recommend you go back and do so because we're kind of building upon each other within this series. So in the first episode, we really talked about what does it mean to be a homemaker? Who are homemakers? The definition's probably broader than you think. And now today we're going to be talking about crafting your daily rhythm, homemaking that reflects your family's needs. This is a topic that we're going to actually cover kind of briefly right now. We're going to kind of talk about what do you do when you're in survival mode. Now, we have talked about this sort of thing, creating rhythms, routines. We have talked about this very extensively here on the podcast. So maybe search for routines and see what comes up. Rhythm even, homemaking. You're going to find some really in-depth episodes. Today, this is more an episode of encouragement for you, and it's going to be more of a bite-sized episode. So if you're like, Jamie, I just feel kind of stuck. Maybe you feel in survival mode. This is going to be a good episode for you to give you just a little bit of encouragement and then maybe some steps forward. And then actually the next couple of episodes we have will probably be longer ones. I think the next one definitely will be. But today I felt like this was a good one to talk about. In the last episode, we talked about viewing our homemaking as ministry and doing it all for the Lord. So now let's talk about the fact that we rest in the Lord and we know that we're working onto Him. But there's a very real component of the fact that our families need to eat and we need clean laundry and we need to get people from A to B and we need to educate our children. And there is a lot, whether you have kids in the home or not, there's so much that we do every single day that we need to juggle, and we need to grow in our skills, and we need to craft daily rhythms. But these daily rhythms really need to be rooted in your family's priorities. And this is what I love so much about being a Christian, is that we're not all called to have our homes look exactly the same. I'm not going to sit here and say these are the 5 elements you must have. Now, obviously, as Christians, there's certain things that we do think are non-negotiable. We want to be in God's word. We want to, church is a priority for us. We're at church every Sunday unless we're sick or something, real crazy happens. We don't take off Sunday to mow the lawn. Church is essential to us. There's some things obviously there, but then within unique family culture, within priorities, rhythms, routines, the way we run and schedule things, it can look so different from household to household. And we each are going to and should have our own unique family cultures, the things that we enjoy doing together, the things that we bond over, just the food that we cook. Those are going to be different, and they should be. So how do we figure that out kind of for our own family? So kind of over the summer, I had a moment where I was standing in the kitchen and I was kind of looking around okay, the sink is full. I need to figure out dinner. And I just started kind of realizing that in this moment, I was a little bit stuck in survival mode. And I've had some pretty intense seasons of survival mode over my lifetime, especially as a mom. Kind of starting out with 2 sets of twins back to back, and my mother passing away in the middle of that. There's just been, and then I had kind of a health crisis after baby number 5 where I could barely function. I definitely can look back and point at a couple distinct survival mode seasons where life's always busy and day to day I can be it's survival mode, but no, I've had some real survival mode. And I was kind of feeling that this summer after having our sweet son Radley, who was 7 months, got burned in April, was in the hospital for 8 days, dealing kind of with the aftermath of that, moving a week later after we got home from the hospital, and then just, 50 billion other things on top of that. My health just really, after the hospital experience, my health just really took a step back. I felt like I'd been working on it. And I've had some ups and downs throughout this summer, but I had kind of this moment where I was I just feel so tired. I feel like my health is just really kind of struggling again. I'm trying to work on it. And just kind of that ebb and flow. And, you get to this point sometimes in survival mode where you just kind of feel like you're constantly rushing, you're constantly doing things, and you're never really moving forward. You're never really making any sort of progress. And so sitting there, I was I need to change this. We're heading into the rest of summer. We're heading then into back to school. And I just feel like frantic. I feel like my brain is frantic. I feel like there's just so many things and I feel scattered. And I think that's part of just kind of, I'm starting to feel better again, but just really I've had extremely low iron. You just like where you get that brain fog and you just are, everything feels chaotic because it's just kind of hard to manage. And I realized I kind of needed to sit down and re-get my priorities straight because, and if you'll see, like, I've got my like crazy list here, like I need to like get everything on paper because it's not like working in my brain. So I grabbed a notebook, sat down at the table and like really started writing out right now in this season, what are my priorities? What are my big things? And that simple list, like I could have told you what they were. It wasn't this like magical discovery, but it was like something about writing them down, having them down. Like it just was a bit of a turning point. And I was like, okay, yes, priority is, you know, the kids right now. And priority is this. Because once you really can put into focus what's important, then figuring out how you weave that into your everyday life through those small daily actions becomes a lot easier. And I know this, I've done this many times, but sometimes you just kind of have a shift in season where you're like, I need to do this again. So I do want to encourage you, if you've never sat down and thought about what are our family's priorities? What are my priorities with my time? Absolutely do that. But if you've done it before, maybe sit and do it again. Just like the act of reminding yourself. I was actually just talking to a friend who had kind of a rough start to school too. In the last 2 episodes I shared, we had a rough start to school this year. Routines just felt hard. And I was talking to a friend who like, she started school the same day as I did. And she was just having a tough time. And she said, yeah, well, I realized I was trying to fit so much into our day. It was making everything like so hard. She's like, so I got I had written out my priorities before the school year started, which I love. I wrote out my priorities. And then I realized I wasn't living out those priorities. I wasn't doing them. And so she's like, so now every single morning I'm getting them out and I'm reading through those priorities before the day starts. And I'm like, that's a brilliant idea. Like that's so smart to really just like sit and review them. So really think through in doing this step to kind of figure out what your daily rhythm should be. Sit down and really think through what are my priorities right now for my family. And so the key is though, your priority list is not going to look like mine or your sister's or your best friend's necessarily. That priority list really needs to reflect what is going on intentionally within your home and for the season, obviously, and the stage that you are in. So I've broken down mine here. I'm going to just share kind of what mine looks like. And this has largely stayed the same and probably will largely stay the same. But for right now in this season where I do have a lot of responsibilities and requirements. These are my 5. Okay. And I recommend not having really more than 5. It becomes very hard to juggle. Now I obviously have smaller things I could fit into these 5, but these are like my 5 categories that when I look at, if you're watching on YouTube, there is a fly that it's the fly season, right? A fly keeps walking directly over the camera spot. So sorry about that. But these 5 priorities really help me when I'm sitting down to look at like our week and there's so many good things to say yes to, but some of those good things actually need to be a no in this season. And that can be really hard to evaluate that sometimes of what's good, what can I say yes to or say no to. So number 1, these are my 5. Number one, biggest priority is nurture my relationship with the Lord. So this is something that in this season, this is my number 1 priority, but it doesn't take up the most amount of time, right? It's not that I'm spending 8 hours a day reading the Bible, but really making sure that I'm in God's word. This is something that I've had certain seasons where I am so focused, I'm so diligent, I'm so in it. And I've had other seasons where I'm not. You fall off and you get so out of that habit. And it's honestly probably a lot of my survival mode seasons are when I'm the worst at that. And those are the seasons when I need God's word the most. And so really focusing there on my daily time in the Word, even if it's 3 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes, praying throughout the day, making it more of a habit to go directly to the Lord. Like I was saying, like regular church attendance, hospitality when we can, those all kind of go into that overarching category. But really, like, even though I'm really busy, even though I'm not spending 8 hours a day in God's Word, making sure that I still am making that a priority is really, really big and very, very important, and something that I'm constantly working on. Now, number 2, and this one is in order as well. Like, this needs to be my second priority, even if, again, it's not getting the most amount of time. And that is pursuing my marriage with intention. So with a busy household, it would be so easy for Jason and I to become two ships passing in the night. And that's what you hear a lot is families who, like, their kids are finally raised and the mom and dad look at each other and realize they don't know each other anymore. And hope is not lost at that point. You can get to know one another again. You can cultivate things that you enjoy doing together. But our goal throughout raising our children is that Jason and I still would remain best friends, that we love talking to each other. We enjoy that. But when schedules get really busy, it's really easy to realize, hey, like, I haven't even had face-to-face time with you. Like, we're all here, we're doing things, but the kids require so much in this season that it's really, really easy to neglect that time one-on-one. And so it's not, in this season for Jason and I, it's not about quantity of time. It's definitely about quality time. So trying to make sure, like, when Jason gets home, he's stepping usually right into like super busy dinner time craziness, but like stopping and just being like, hey babe, I'm so glad you're home. Give him a quick kiss and hug. Because it's so easy for me when I'm in the busy of like, I'm cooking dinner and hi, and I don't have time to stop and talk for 20 minutes when he's getting home at this point. But we've had seasons where he gets home before dinner time and I can stop and chat for a few minutes, but just being intentional, say, hey, hun, love you. So glad you're home. Happy to see you. Like a smile on my face, like, hey, I'm so glad you're here. That goes a long way. And just making sure that we do have some moments to chat and talk, to be intimate, to have that marriage bed. Right. And often a lot of those things do mean we end up staying up later than we wanted to. And that's actually okay for the season that we're in right now. Sometimes we're like, why are we getting to bed so late? Oh, because we were talking and having really good conversations and I was filling you in on something that happened in homeschool, and that's okay in the season. Like, it's just kind of when the time is. We want to make sure that him and I are just, having fun together. We don't have regular like dates in this season of life. We're not, leaving the kids and going out all the time. And so just being really intentional with our time at home, and also knowing that we've got kids who are going to be able to babysit very, very soon in our life, that we can go grab a quick dinner together, which will be a whole new season, which will be really fun. All right. Number 3 is Christ-centered parenting. Now, this one definitely takes up the vast bulk majority of my time. But you do have to have that relationship with the Lord and the relationship with your husband. Those need to be top priorities. But obviously, parenting my children is absolutely huge. And so for me, this does mean choosing cuddle time sometimes. Like, I love cuddling with my littles on the couch. And just this morning, Jason's like, you guys all need to leave in like 20 minutes. I'm like, I know. And he's like, are you going to get up and get ready? And I'm like, I will very soon, but I'm cuddling. Like, I had all 3 of the littles piled on me on the couch. How do you get up from that? We did make it out the door in time. We actually did. But, prioritizing certain things like that, reading stories, praying together, playing together. That's why we actually right now we're doing, me and all the kids are doing 3 times a week. We're getting out and we're going on different hikes. There's a bunch of trails in our area. And so we're kind of having fun exploring all the different ones. We just did like a 2.5 mile one the other day, and just like having fun. And I'm really like exercise I really want to be working on, but it's exercise that's also fun for me to do with all 8 kids. It's obviously good for them. And we just talk the whole time. Like, it's awesome time with them. And in fact, the other day, one of my kids was like, I don't want to go on a walk. He just was having a terrible attitude. And I was like, sorry, too bad. We got done with a walk and he's like, Mom, I'm sorry actually for having a bad attitude. That was really fun and I really like going on walks. And I was like, yeah, I know you do. Like, you just were being, a grumpus and didn't want to do it. But like, it can be such a good time together. And so looking for those ways. Obviously with homeschooling, I have to be very intentional with that time. But making sure like we have that when you're in a family, it's easy to be around each other 24/7, but you're not actually necessarily like engaged in direct conversation, right? So really trying to make sure that we've got that priority of one-on-one time with each kid, which Jason and I are very, I'm not gonna say we do it perfectly like at all. I'm sure, like any family, our kids will grow up at some point and be like, you guys didn't do this well. And it'll be like, oh, sorry, we were focused on other things. But we do really try like that one-on-one individual time. Jason's the oldest of 7, and his mom did a very, very good job at that. She was always up for talking. They would talk late into the night. And so it's just something I want to be very aware of. And then of course, within parenting, there's so many other things of leading and discipling and disciplining and so many things. So that number 3 priority is definitely the biggest one here on the list of as far as quantity of time. Number 4 priority for me is creating a healthy home. That's a big priority for me. And so in this falls to me, lots of things fall into this, cooking from scratch, taking small steps towards more natural living, home remedies, exercising together, learning new homemaking skills. Like I have a lot of things for me that kind of fall under, I would say actually like this category, I wrote these priorities out a long time ago. This priority has probably like shifted more into like intentional homemaking for me. So like like for a long time, it was like I had to learn what it meant to eat healthy. I had to learn what tinctures were and herbs. And now, not that I know it all, like I have so much more to learn, but like that's pretty settled in my life. And it's not something I'm actively learning and having to research and do all this stuff. And so for me, it's kind of more like just intentional homemaking. Am I being intentional with my time at home, with cooking from scratch, with those different things? And then finally, priority number 5, this is a really, really big one because this is our family's full-time income, which is running our business with Jason. So because I'm a homeschool mom, we have 8 kids, because I run a business with my husband, I have certain priorities and less time than some of my peers. I just don't, I don't have as much time. We don't do a lot of like, play dates like at the park, which I did. And I part of that's actually just a very natural transition. You do that a lot more when your kids are really, really little, not as much as they get older. But because this is our sole source of income, Jason runs our business full time, working with Jason, to establish priorities and routines when I can get my work done. So for example, today, you guys might notice the last few episodes, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm wearing the exact same thing because surprise, surprise, I've recorded all 3 of these back to back. Jason decided to pack up all the kids and he went and did homeschool. We have homeschool co-op for the older boys on Thursday. So he picked them up. He's running to Walmart to get milk. He's running to pick up our Amazon. So he's doing a couple of things along the way while I get this recording done. And so that is something that when we are prioritizing our time, that I can't just make my schedule and exclude any sort of time to get my work done in the week that Jason needs from me, because that wouldn't, we need money to buy groceries. And I need to be faithful too in that, Jason is waiting and expecting things from me for the business. He can't publish the podcast. What people don't see is that I record this half-an-hour podcast, but then Jason has 4 times that amount of work on the back end to do all of the other stuff with it. So people are like, how do you find the time? And I'm like, well, I really just need half an hour. Jason does all the rest of that work, but Jason can't be faithful with his work until I get my work done, right? And so that's a really big part of our schedules and routines, is figuring out when in these little nooks and crannies I'm going to get some of my stuff in and kind of juggling that around. But it's a really important priority to make sure I have, because it's a huge, huge, huge priority. Even though my primary responsibility is as a homeschooling mom to these kids, but this is also a priority that I need to make sure that we are putting into our schedule. So when I have these written out, it is very helpful. It's helpful for me to say what, figure out what I can say yes to, what I can say no to. With homeschooling, I can look at this and say, hey, Jason, I kind of wanted to add this thing to our year. What do you think about that? And that's a big thing too, is like Jason and I run all of this schedule stuff between each other. And I'm constantly, I think Jason can see, sometimes from the outside, our husbands can see maybe a better look at our schedule. I was looking at something, I was like the day before, like crying to him, like, this is such a hard start to the school year. And then the next day I'm like, so I'm thinking about adding this thing in. And Jason's like, why? What are you talking about? And I'm like, oh, maybe it's too much for this year. And he's like, you think? I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. And just being like, hey, babe, I got to record podcast episodes this week. Like, how is it going to happen? When's it going to happen? You know, what time do we need to make this fit into? So anyway, so kind of having just like your priorities laid out like that can be very helpful. And again, maybe your list looks very similar, but the way it plays out is going to be different. Maybe your list looks very different, different seasons, different stages, and then your list is also going to look different. And so what we want to do then is we want to take these priorities and we want to build them into daily steps then, daily rhythms. So the goal is to take your overarching priorities, break them down into actionable habits. So for example, if one of your priorities is cultivating a strong walk with God, what does that look like in practice? You're like, if I know I'm not cultivating my life with the Lord as much as I should. So, you know, maybe it's things like you got to put daily Bible study, prayer for your spouse, reading gospel-centered books. Like, what does that look like practically? Adding it to your week, building it in there to your schedule. Now, I will say if you're like, oh, this topic's so great, but you know, Jamie, we just barely scratched the surface here. I highly want to recommend a very old book that is absolutely delightful. It is, if you listen to my old podcast episodes, you're going to know this right away. Say Goodbye to Survival Mode by Crystal Payne. One of my favorite books that I have ever read. She says here in her book, Survival Mode, Say Goodbye to Survival Mode, she says, have you spent too much time trying to be domestic, artistic, creative, organized, or poetic as your best friend or sister instead of appreciating and focusing on your natural gifts? And I really like that because that gets to the heart of this exercise. Stop copying other people and start living out the gifts that God has given you and the life that God has given you, the season that God has given you right now. So I'm going to leave you there with that. Again, today's episode is a shorter one because I want you to go in and I want you to dig in and I want you to do this exercise. I want you to be like, what does this look like in my life? What are the priorities? And this will be an important step as you evaluate, like, what does it mean to glorify God within my home? And then, you know, as we kind of step into further topics within this series as well. So ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. And we'll see you guys back here next week for the next episode.